Hello.
Hello. Yes. Welcome to The Clearing, a podcast where we talk about product experience design
Mm.
out of our studio, Choicing Down. We are a small studio based in Austin, Texas, and right now it's just myself, Kristen,
And
and
Dave.
yeah, and you, Dave. So what do? We in our studio, we work with founders and product teams to find novel, fun ways to bring customers into their product world. And the way we do that is through the design of experiences. Surprise, surprise. So events, stunts, adventures, games, some sort of combination of those kinds of experiences is what we bring into product worlds to kind of onboard, invite customers, audience into products. So all shapes and sizes. We think that the core ingredient here is play, having a bit of a playful nature. And we think it's possible for every product to take advantage of this kind of experience design in some way, shape, or form. Like it could be a publicity stunt, it could be an onboarding experience, it could be a core part of your product too. So we work along the whole continuum of products, experiences, you name it, we do it.
Mhm. Yeah. So the approach that we're kind of taking is there's experience design broadly speaking, and a lot of that can look like UI, UX kind of things. And we're focused on uh, the impression of the world that you're creating with your product and how that comes across to the players, the users, the people that are interfacing with you. And the more fun that they can have, and the more emotion that they can feel in relationship to your product, the more likely that that becomes a living world that they want to be a part of.
Yep. Technically we call this relational experience design, and it works hand in glove with UI UX. It's just
Yeah.
a kind of newer layer that we're seeing in the digital design world as digital tech matures. So it's a way of setting your product apart and yeah, bringing people into a relational, like a felt sense experience, like Dave was saying. So our last episode, we did a thing where we started in the middle. We didn't introduce ourselves or
Mm-hmm.
the studio, which was not entirely intentional. However, Dave was saying earlier, it's design intuition because we
Mm-hmm.
were reflecting on the fact that we didn't do that. And thank you to all of our friends who watched or listened to the podcast and gave us feedback. What jumped out to us is that we were using a technique that we often do in experience design, which is starting in the middle. It's a way to find the essence of the experience. It's a kind of role playing too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't.
It's a so in the case of starting a new endeavor or like dropping into a new experience, you tend not to know exactly what's going to happen. Um, Often, you can go about the process of imagining an experience and then trying to map it all out and plan. And very often, in my experience, like 90% of the time, that plan, like even with like really skilled game designers and people who have done this a lot before, most of it ends up being wrong. And so there is a sense of being able to like pick a place to start, any place where you kind of know what's going on, bringing in the other people who are going to help design and bring forward the experience, and start poking around. Just play what you know from that place, and you're going to miss lots of details. That's fine, but in the process of moving through the environment, you will find the details that are necessary from a first person perspective.
Yeah, it's a good way of getting started.
Yeah.
So, and it's not necessarily the the first time that you're sitting down on a project. It could be every time you sit down on a project, you just drop in somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, Not necessarily. Sometimes like you leave a pin somewhere that I really want to start here, but otherwise, and that could be the beginning, middle, end, whatever. The
Save
point
point.
is, yeah, save point. The point, and if you don't have a save point, this still works. And
Yeah.
part of what I'm hearing you talk about, Dave, is this following your own intuition or felt sense. Curiosity, I think, is something key here. Like, where are you feeling pulled as an individual to start?
Yeah.
And kind of bringing the group, whoever your team is, into that space with you. And yeah, and then looking around. It's literally an orientation technique. Like, what do I see? What do I feel? And people experience, yeah, that sort of that role playing, and because it's not in material reality, it's a more imaginative, creative reality. So everyone experiences that differently. So you find ways to communicate and share in what you're seeing and what you're experiencing in those places.
Yep. And the different disciplines that are in that imaginative space are using their sensibilities, like the different players, to pick up on what's salient in the environment, and then you remix
Yes.
those into the experience that you are going to present to your audience.
Yep. And just wanted to flag, we are talking a lot about experiences, and we do view the podcast as a kind of mini experience. It's got a feedback loop with our audience. We're just starting it out, so we've got some friends who are, again, we're so grateful for people spending time to give us an audience before we've created one. This felt sense of an experience as a place or location. So we talk about that a lot because there is this felt sense of an experience as spatial. So that spatial quality of moving through an experience landscape, like, again, all of these terms that refer to physical place is really interesting.
Yeah. The the feeling that you get in a quality story, in a quality game, something like this, is usually journey centric. You're moving through, you're immersed in an environment. The story has an A to B, or like an arc or something like this. And so I think about it as a dungeon crawl, or any of these kinds of things. And so in the design process, feeling into the landscape of the experience that you're trying to bring forth is a really good way of orienting to the sort of metaphorical landscape of your experience. So metaphors like this will come up all the time. Like, where are we going next? What does it, where's the user, like, what do they experience here to move them into the next thing that they need to know, that they need to feel, this kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah,
Very.
I think finding the shared language too, which I was just alluding to, because everyone will experience the experience the experience. I don't know what the because there's these senses that you get, and like the embodied felt sense of something, or again, like your mind is, you're getting images, like everyone's different. So some people might see things through images, some people might hear things or like read things through words. There's lots of different ways that we can orient to the landscape of the experience. And at first, this is very disorienting, almost always,
Yeah.
until you find shared landmarks, save points, and language to be able to communicate about what is happening in the place of the experience.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of using stand-in. There's a thing there,
Mm-hmm.
a damn it over here. I'm confused here. And drawing your attention to the stuff that is not specific yet, and the stuff where the sense of confusion or disorientation is part of, like, feeling into what the user or the player will feel. And so putting yourself there is a really helpful uh, means of orientation.
Yep. And repeating again, like curiosity. So
Yeah.
if you don't understand what someone is expressing and how they are experiencing or understanding the landscape around them,
Yeah.
asking questions and just being generally curious and supportive, because it is a bit of a vulnerable act. You're talking about something that you don't know for sure, but you feel and have a sense of, and you're trying to bring it into some kind of shared reality. It's one of the things about the way that this works. It's just vulnerable. It feels a bit odd to not be certain. And that could be because culturally, we tend to prize certainty and tangibilizing things. The act of tangibilizing things is, yeah, very uncertain. That's, you're going through the
You don't
process.
you don't know it yet. And if it's already been made, then you're just making a derivative one of those,
Yep.
which is fine. Sometimes you have heuristics and stuff, but it very often feels like a sheep wandering around a minefield. And like, and if you get a bunch of sheep, uh, you know, some of them will hit the mines and you're like, there's a boundary condition over there. So let's put a barrier up there, or, steer it this kind of way. So yeah, it's very fun if you can drop into the play of the thing, and what will very quickly happen is, like, we're all really good at playing. So if we can develop a shared language and a felt sense of the place, like, what does it feel like? Is it a jungle? Is it a cafe? Is it a shopping mall? Whatever it is. And like, how are we moving through, and what kinds of things we already know about a place like that, so that we can use those metaphors as our basis of language for how we can wayfind in the place and what might be fun to do in that place.
Yep. So I think this is our way of saying that we're starting in the middle
Mm-hmm.
and feeling around in the dark. We are the sheep on the minefield, in the minefield, and trying not to blow ourselves up, but probably blowing ourselves up every now and then. And
We get respawns. It's fine.
yeah, it's
Unlimited lives
cool
in
like
this
that.
state until it goes really live, and then you have to do it for real, for real.
Wait, what is that? Really
I don't
live?
know.
I
Doing
don't know.
it live
Just like virtual reality live is kind of what I have in my head.
could be.
So I think the only other thing that I wanted to drop into the space is that it's a very non-linear process, is what we're alluding to. Oftentimes, and I'm in particular very guilty of this, I want to start from the beginning. And I'm also a writer, so I know this trap, and I tend to recognize it usually a little bit later than I would like to. It's really hard to start at the beginning. Like if you're writing like a blog post, let's say, writing the introduction is something you usually save for last, because the introduction is setting you up for the middle and the end and what you're trying to communicate. So starting in the middle is a bit maddening. It's really difficult to do. We oftentimes, yeah, it is, again, it's like a predominant cultural outlook perspective is linear, though, that we're moving through the world in such a way that has a starting, beginning, and ending. And novels, for example, like they play on that linearity. What we're doing, though, is not necessarily linear in the long run. What the output is that we're creating for the experience design, what, like, depending on what style of event it is, most often it's going to run linearly, but you do not have to create it that way or find it that way. In fact, like Dave, you said in the beginning, it's really hard to do that, to try to set things up with this, then this, then this, like based on what you have in your mind.
It
Yeah.
prefigures the things. It predetermines the
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
from a place like from outside the experience. So if you can design from within the experience, then
Mm-hmm.
the likelihood of trusting your senses to make cool decisions for what it's going
Yeah.
to be like in there is going to play out for your players and your users. So you are, on behalf of the users, putting yourself through the discomfort of a poor experience first. And
Yes.
if you do that on behalf of them, then what you end up delivering to them when we round out and like create elegance in the flows and stuff like this, and moments of excitement, they are going to have a much better time. This is the gift that you're giving them. And when a user or player experiences this kind of thing, what they do is that they're excited, they're stoked, or whatever the feeling that you're trying to bring to them through the design, and they will tell everybody else, like,
Yep.
you should go do this thing because it makes you feel like this, and people want to feel those things. So yeah.
Yeah. So what we specialize in is creating containers where we can practice this and emerge whatever form your experience is in group settings and group practice in a way that we can get comfortable within the discomfort, and even beyond that, making it fun, making it playful, because it is possible. This is just part of the design process. And when we drop in to create our own projects or working with clients, this is what we're doing. We're creating these containers to invite people in to play, to start role playing, start in the middle, try on like different characters, like explain what you're seeing and whatever kind of bonkers like language that you have for it. Anything's fair game. We keep it, again, contained, and that's part of the challenge, is creating this ritual, creating a practice space that is imbued with this sense. And yeah, we like doing that a lot.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's a fun way of designing. And in particular, like we play a role of sort of guide and producer in this space, especially when we're working with teams or founders that have a pre-existing idea.
Yeah.
And what we're then bringing them into is playing their idea forward, right?
Yep.
And this allows for all kinds of new sparks and a felt sense of what you're trying to make in a way that would, it's somewhat difficult to get to without the container and the space that we provide. So I don't know. Yeah.
So hire us.
Yeah. If you want that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yep.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, we're gonna keep this one short and sweet. So unless there's any parting shots, I think
Nope.
it's
Start
all
in the
we got for
middle
you this time. Start
and
in the middle and end on time
exactly.
or something.
Bye.
Bye.